Hello everybody, my name is Carol King and I am the developer of Custom Homebuilders Solutions, also known as CHS, which, as the name says, is the solution for professional custom home builders for handling all of their job costing and very unique accounting requirements. CHS includes so many features that home builders came together and asked me to include based on best practices and based on both my accounting degree with honors and on my heavy experience in the back offices of home builders. They told me about how so much of the software out there seemed to be more for production builders than for custom builders, and that they have their own very specific needs to handle their unique jobs. So, my goal was to pull together the accounting and all the tools for job costing that was needed so that in the back office the accounting team was not spending so many hours making lots of spreadsheets to produce variance reports for job costs, draw request billings, insurance audit reports, figuring out cash flow and cash balances by job, where job costs and gross profit are heading on each job, and on and on and on. So in this video, I will quickly show you how I have brought my experience as an accountant in the back offices of custom home builders together with the wisdom of multiple builders who contributed their knowledge to the creation of CHS. I will start with why those builders tell me that they got the sale because of CHS. Just picture yourself at the table with your prospects and showing them your awesome proposal and reports from CHS that will convince them just how accountable you really are. Before I jump into CHS and open it up, on the website that you're probably on watching this video, I want to point out a couple of things. There will be this video on the main page, but if you click Features, you're going to be taken to a page that starts in on a seminar that I used to do for 2 or 3 days for builders that I've now spit out onto videos. So if you'd like to know the various features and get a good idea of CHS, you might have your whole team come here and watch various things. The other thing I wanted you to know about were the blogs that are over here on our page, and how I really get into a blog talking about the complex and unique accounting needs of home builders. And also, I have given you a blog about the difference between a markup and margin, which is one of the most important things that custom home builders need to understand. We have a free tool you can use to help you decide what markup you should be using, and an excellent video there teaching you about the difference between markup and margin and what gross profit is. So now let's go ahead and jump into CHS. So here we are inside of the CHS program, and this is the main menu of CHS where you can select from different things, expand things, click on it. Notice that there's financials. This is a full accounting program. There's a place for unpaid payables and printing checks and posting your payables. An unusual thing that you don't see in generic software, something interim draw requests. That's one of the things. Jobs, budgets, estimates, bids, POs, change orders, etc. You'll see all of these types of selections that you may not see in a regular generic accounting software. But what I'd like to point out is the main hub of a job costing program is setting up something called your cost centers. We refer to those a lot of times as cost codes. I have opened this and would like you to know that on every screen that you're on, there is full help for what you need to do. Now notice that this zeroed in on cost codes and had those already highlighted. There's the tutorial that is the seminar video number 1 that I talked about on our website, will be the same one. And then we have very detailed tutorials for particular areas of interest, and you'll see that there's links to videos and to help documents. So all of this related, when I opened it, to cost codes, because we are on the cost codes master setup. Now this isn't a job budget or estimate. This is the setup of your cost centers. And I'd like you to know that just because you see various things here, that doesn't mean that's what you have to use for your own cost codes. You can load the regular NAHB cost codes that the National Association of Home Builders set up, which are really nice. Then delete them, add to them, tweak them, or change them, or you can just do your own from scratch. The reason I opened this is I just wanted to point out that this is a master. And when you open a brand new budget, getting ready to do a proposal for a new customer, a lot of things can be filled in for you based on how you set up this master. For example, notice the slab contract has been marked to bring in the slab square feet from the job specs. and to supply that as a quantity. So if you open a brand new budget estimate and bring in the master, the slab square feet will be dropped in as the quantity, and this will be dropped in as the default unit price. When you're working on the estimate, you can change any of that as needed. You'll see other things that say living square feet and various things, and those are things the builder sets up on the job. When you open a new budget or estimate, you can decide to bring in all the cost codes for your master, or you may have set up a few template jobs and created budgets or estimates for those, and you can copy those from a template job to start a brand new budget that might be similar to that one. And that brand new budget will look to the new job's specs to drop in the quantities and maybe adjust those rather than just bring those in straight. Let's go back to the home page. I have clicked to open the active jobs dashboard, and I selected a kind of new job that we've set up that a builder shared with me, his budget or proposal, and I selected that job, and various things dropped in about that job here, showing who the builder, construction manager, and maybe an estimator is that has permission to work on all sorts of things just for this job. By the way, back on the Home tab, there is a place, if you set up various users like ones in the field, and you'll see why you're going to start wanting ones in the field to get on CHS. I just want you to know that you can set permissions that certain people in the field, maybe they don't need to be getting into all the accounting and financials or being able to edit accounting records. You can set up user permissions so that they do not go to that level of accounting. So just don't worry about that. You have ways to control that. Back on the jobs dashboard for this job, I have opened the budget worksheet. When I first did it, it asked me if I wanted to load the master or copy from another job. I loaded the cost codes master. So here's the budget that builder has been working on here. And you can see that it totals up to a budget, that he has a bunch of lines that are zero, that he has brought in various things like framing labor. And if you hover over this, you'll see that the framing square feet dropped in as the quantity. But you can also see that this builder has done a lot of work and has a lot of zero lines that he's not using. He has opened this and reviewed all the zero lines just to make sure he didn't miss something. And if you get down here, you start seeing various things that might concern you, sheet metal, plumbing, whatever it is, and you go, did I miss roofing? Something about roofing materials and labor, like it's not there. But if I type in a keyword and do roof to see what I find, I see that I did roofing turnkey here. And so I probably don't want these lines here that are zero lines. Let's show all, and I'd like to let you know that you can clean this up. Once you're really done with putting in all your numbers, this says remove zero lines. You can open that same report as zero lines, or click to delete all those zero lines. Boom. So that all you're seeing are lines that just have amounts in it. So here we go. Let's take a look at a couple of things on this budget, just because. First of all, you're going to notice paperclip icons going on over here. That means they've uploaded some attachment for this. Also, you're going to notice that he has written a lot of buyer notes. That's why there's check marks. Let's take a look at the framing package by clicking on it for a minute. First of all, this is where, if it hasn't dropped in and you're not happy with it, you can change the quantity and the unit price. The reason for the quantity percent is maybe they want to sort of add a contingency to this, so they make it 110%, which causes quantity times quantity percent to get increased, or they put 108.25 because their sales tax is 8 1/4 and they got a bid that just shows the amount without the sales tax, etc. But notice, remember I said something about that paperclip icon. It's right here. And let's take a look at what they decided to attach to this. And what they decided to attach was the bid from Builders First Source for the framing material. And then they used that. But I'd also like to show you how they got that bid. What they did, if you look at comments, let's edit comments that have to do with this cost code and with this job. Notice that there is a comment that was sent out to Builders First Source saying a link to our bid request is included, and here is a link to our plans. And I'm going to talk about that, about the plans room here in just a minute. But this is the bid request. If you click the paperclip icon that was created inside CHS, and then CHS had the tool to send an email to them that had this bid request attached, etc. And then what happened is they used the communication portal button in the email that they received, Builders First Source did, and they attached their bid. If I click that, that's going to be the bid that we saw. The other thing I'd like you to notice is that there isn't a bid amount over here, 87, and what we budgeted for came in because we used the company master. The frame square feet dropped in and 1750 dropped in, and we've gotten this bid for that amount, which was the amount on that bid I opened. But we're going to go ahead and just leave this estimate here because we know with lumber, who knows what may happen. Notice that this builder has, instead of putting frame square feet as the unit measure here, has marked it as an allowance and has used the buyer notes here to include information that this is good for through a certain time. Anyway, he has also included a link to the framing plan and a link to the lumber bid to be in the buyer notes when the proposal is printed. And when they open a PDF, they can just click on this and see the framing plan and the lumber bid, because this builder is very accountable, especially if it's an allowance that they need to see the information on. Notice that there is a plan room where this builder has uploaded a framing plan and an architectural permit, and if I open that, you'll see that that is a framing plan. I don't know much about all this stuff, but anyway, you can see that. And what you can get is a small URL that you can highlight over, do Control-C to copy, go paste it into an email you have, or send a comment saying here's the plans. So you can see how elaborate this builder is getting. I'd like to show you something else. Let's just go up to something simple. On building permits, you can see an amount for some items right here. Actually came in from the cost codes master because you can set up some generic items behind a cost code. Notice that this builder has set up some items to remind himself of what to budget for, and he has check marked every one of these to include on the budget, but if not, he could uncheck some of these or not check them at all, and he can also edit them and change the prices right now for these items that can be detailed when you do a budget proposal. There are various other things you can check mark to include these items when you send out a bid request, to include these and make a new PO from them, etc., but we're not going to get that detailed. But that's what's happened here, is he selected this much for items for this particular line. And also on the cost codes master, he set up some default notes to drop in for the buyer, and if he's not going to have HOA fees, he could just wipe those out right now. And you can write internal notes that are just for yourselves based on this budget. But let's take a minute now that he has all of his budget numbers in, and let's go set the price for this before we give them a proposal, right? What I'd like you to notice is that you can select fixed contract, cost plus markup type of job, or cost plus fee. All of this stuff down here is going to react to the type of contract that you select, and I'll give you a little demonstration of that in a minute, but let's just play like this is fixed price right now. So somebody has told us, or we think, or we've figured out using our tool, that we need a 20% profit margin. CHS has gone out and is telling you that then you need to mark up everything 25%. So what CHS has done has also suggested a price based on that profit percent that you want. So you could just type that price in here, or you may look at it and say, let's make the price $1,500,000. So what happens is you'll see fixed price minus the current job budget amount, and then it's done the original estimated profit amount, and you can see that that's a little higher than 20% because we made our price higher. I'm going to close this. This is what I wanted you to notice. The job is marked as a fixed price, and it doesn't match what your total marked up amount is, because we did $1,500,000. So let's open the tool it's trying to get us to open. For one thing, I could just click this, type in a markup percent, and change the markup percent on all the budgeted things, which is what the builder had already done. Over here, though, it's noticing contract price is this, budgeted costs are this, and that the markup percent is really being this right now to get to that price. I can change the markup percent on all budgeted cost for this job to this calculated amount. However, I use allowances as a builder, and I am telling the customers, maybe for appliance, that this is an allowance and you have this much to spend, and if you go over it, you're going to pay the overage. And they do an allowance agreement in CHS, and they get a list of the allowances. You can also put on your agreement that you'll give them credit for anything that goes under. However, when they get the proposal and they see appliances, they should see how much they have to spend when they go to the store. for, not the marked up amount. So this button is for you to click, and CHS will figure it all out and make it so that the markup percent on the allowances is 0. And let's see what happened. Now notice this markup percent that's going on a lot of the lines, but some of the lines are 0. These are allowance items. So CHS shoved the markup percent into these lines so that when you do a proposal, you're going to see the amounts marked up for everything except allowance, and then allowance will stay where you budgeted it. And the total marked up column comes to $1,500,000. So let's take a look at those great proposals you might make for that home buyer and get that sale. I'm going to click Budgets, All Budget Reports, and I'd like you to know that you can set up all sorts of styles for the header at the top of the budget or estimate that you're going to give to them. This builder has set up something called Proposal, and that's what we'll use, which controls the header and the stuff at the bottom. This is usually used for a cost plus builder fee. These are usually used for a cost plus markup, and this is usually used for a fixed price proposal to give to the customer. Notice how these are all alike, but CHS will do these reacting to what you've done. So let's just ask for a marked up one only with buyer notes. I'm sending it to PDF, and let's start taking a look at this. He set up this to be his header, and you can make this longer or shorter to explain what he's doing here. Notice he put these in the buyer notes, and he has the amounts, and these are marked up amounts, and this is the percent of the total proposal. He's gotten very elaborate with all of his notes, but one thing you'd like to see here is the proposal. There's a hyperlink, and if the prospect clicks that, they can see the proposal. He is being very open with them about the proposals he's received from various vendors here, but the home buyer that you send it to can. He puts various things in red, and he gets elaborate, explaining everything and why it's budgeted that way. And if you go all the way to the bottom, he also has a footer here that he put in and uploaded a copy of his signature, and you can see how it's totaling to the price. I'm not going to get into any more detail on this fixed one, but I think you can see how a prospect might feel pretty good about getting this kind of proposal with all of this information for them. I'm making this one of the biggest parts of this video because getting the sale pays for having CHS, right? So let's close that for a minute. I'd like to go back, and I'd like to change the type. I'll do cost plus fee because cost plus markup isn't used all that much anymore, but I'm changing it. And CHS is suggesting a fee in order to get this 20%. So let's just click this to set the fee to that. Here's the fee right here that is suggested, and if you take the budget plus the fee minus the budget, you get that 20%. And I'd like to make my point about that you should not make a cost line on your budget for the builder fee because CHS is going to take care of putting it there for you. You don't want to end up trying to post job costs that are the builder fee because they are not really job costs to you. They are revenue to you. And one thing, since I already typed a price in, it's remembering it, is you want to put in the price that you're going to use by using that particular fee that you used. You can get it by looking down here after you type a fee in. If you look here, you're going to see what the total is with whatever fee. Maybe I used $300,000 for my fee. And let's just do that instead of the one that CHS suggested. Now you see you're getting a higher than 20%, and we should put in 1477342 just so everything ties up. This is a moving target, the price, when it's a cost plus builder fee, but we want to have something on our initial proposal for it to total up to. So let's go back, look at all the budget reports, select the proposal one that he has set up, and let's use this column because this is a cost plus builder fee now, and we do want to show him just the budgeted costs. I'll export it to PDF, and let's just slide down. Everything here is the same except that what you're seeing is budgeted costs all along here, not marked up costs. And everything is here for you, but I'd like to show you that at the bottom of this, here is the job total budget plus the builder's fee. That means you don't have to put the builder's fee up here as a cost line on here and budget plus fee. So that's real clear to the home buyer about the fee that you're going to charge when you hand them this proposal, or save this down to your computer right now. You're ready to go, or you can set those prospective buyers up online, and the one that you have selected like this will be what they see online, is this proposal that they could pull up at any time. But of course you could always save this, use tools in your PDF reader to email it to them so that they can see it. But I hope that makes a point. We won't do the cost plus markup what it is. It'll show both the costs and the marked up amount to that buyer with the price that you use, and it'll be calculated just strictly on a markup percent on all of the costs that you have. You'll see that in other videos. I have taken a moment and gone and changed this job back to being a fixed contract, and I have opened something else that you can hand those prospective buyers at the table, which is an allowance agreement that you have set up. Remember, we were marking different budget lines as an allowance. So those particular lines are showing up on a report that you can hand the prospective buyers and see all those buyer notes. But these are only the ones that have been marked as an allowance and shows their total allowance, etc. When you go to work on the allowance agreement, you can change the notes as you like, and then you could just send this or show your prospective buyers the total allowance report. They can also see it if you set them up to be online and they go to their portal and click the section about allowances. Just wanted to show you how they're seeing this part of that based on those great buyer notes, and that there's links to bids and everything else in there. Now what I'd like to show you is how we're going to get the various team members involved and give information to everybody about this job as it progresses. On the jobs dashboard, I have clicked Estimated Cost of Completion and open something called an Estimated Cost at Completion worksheet. That's a mouthful, but if you think about the term, this is estimating what you think today that your costs are going to be at completion. The power of CHS is that it's going to bring in things from all over the place, change orders that are issued, POs that are issued, when the bookkeeping has entered various bills, whether they're paid or not paid, and they're showed over here whether they're paid or not and how much is outstanding. Those actual costs are going to come in immediately because you're doing all of your accounting work right inside CHS. You're not having to go synchronize with some outside thing like QuickBooks to get those in. I mean, they are just here. And you can refresh this worksheet if somebody's sitting and entering bills or doing POs while you have it open, and then you could refresh it to see what has come in. Now notice down here we have original budget, and the total of the budget is what we saw. We have a place for change order costs to come in and to revise the original budget, but the original budget does not change. By the way, I did not mention that while you're on the budget worksheet, when you're all completely done and have set the price, there is a feature there to lock that budget, which will lock the budget from being changed and will lock the price from being changed, and only a person with the highest level permission can unlock that budget. So anyway, on the estimated cost of completion, that's this column right here, and the total of it is showing right down here, and right now it is the same as the budget. But in any job, that ECC is probably going to start changing, and you start seeing a profit difference going on here. One way that it can change is because of POs being issued, purchase orders, or work orders. And you have a button right here to add a PO if you notice that you don't have any POs. And so this is a good screen to sit to go through and say, what have I issued POs for? Now I'm going to do a plug for purchase orders for people that say we don't do purchase orders, they take too much time. In this, I'm going to show you how much time they actually save you. By issuing a PO, you are telling the field who is going to be doing the work and the back office who is going to be doing the work. And you can get a list of everybody that's been issued a PO with their contact information and hand that to the field. Also, when the back office is entering that bill, they can drop down, look to see if there's a PO from that vendor, select it, and all the cost codes and cost centers drop in because of the PO. So there's that guy at the desk trying to go through a stack of bills and code them or something for you that you might be having right now. A purchase order is going to get rid of having to do that because it has the cost code on it already. Back office doesn't have to ask. Also, the field can get on and mark that PO work is done, and the bookkeeper can bring up a list of POs that have been marked as done and just start creating bills directly from the PO. There's a lot of reasons for having POs, and one is that it's a legal agreement with the vendor about what you're going to pay them. with some verbiage. So let's take a look at the framing materials that we have here. Remember, we had a bid in that we showed you. We had a copy of the bid, and we had posted the bid as a record that we received from them, and we had communications. And you can see that that comments bubble is darkened because we had communications back and forth with BuilderSource about this particular framing package. So let's click to do a plus PO right here. CHS has detected that you have a bid in, and if you have other bids, they would be listed here. We're going to do plus PO on this bid, which means that it's really easy to get all the numbers filled in for the PO. So you can see that the amount has been filled in, and also that there's an attachment, and that came from the bid, and it's now getting attached to the PO, and it will be that builder's first source that we saw. I'd like you to know that you don't have to have the word purchase order at the top of things. You can set up a style called work order, a style called PO, and add or edit the styles and the verbiage that would be on that style when you click it. I'm going to print, store this PO. I'm going to use my stored signature to be at the bottom, and I want the attachment to be on the PO, so I'll select that one. Now you can see the title has purchase order. We have the amount in here. We have a short URL to that attachment from Builder's First Source, so we could have changed our notes on the PO. I didn't do that, but you could say it as per attached bid and type several notes about this PO before you print this. And because he has so much verbiage in his footer, it goes to the second page to show all of his wonderful verbiage. And there's your purchase order. You could email it yourself, save it, whatever, to your vendor. But also, you can store a hard copy of the PO, which means everything else will get locked because now we're assuming that we will be sending it to the vendor and that changes shouldn't be made. But you can see how this says, send the hard copy, which means CHS will take care of creating a comment to Builder's First Source, and then you can send it off to them. So now that I've done the purchase order on the estimated cost of completion, when you closed it, it refreshed, and you can see the amount of the purchase order right here. Since I know that we sent the PO out, I'm going to check the comments bubble here to see if we received a signed PO back. And here's where we sent the PO out, and you can click to see a copy of the PO. But sure enough, in yellow, which means we got something from the contact, Builder's First Source, John Jones with Builder's First Source has signed the PO. So let's take a quick look at that PO and go all the way to the bottom. And you can see that it is signed, so they have accepted the PO. The reason I wanted to look at that was because if you'll notice, the PO is less than what we budgeted. And if I'd like the ECC to change to be the amount of the PO, I'm going to check mark this. I'd like you to notice a little calculation that's going up here about profit difference. Right now, we're showing no difference in the profit, but let's check mark this. And you can see that CHS is telling you that the ECC is now the same as the PO. This means use a lower PO. If the PO had been higher, it would have automatically changed the ECC to the higher PO. But anyway, it says minus 1169. But notice that our profit is going down a little bit, not up, by the fact that our costs are less. And I'd like to show you that if you'll remember on the job budget screen, we were opening something that was showing us calculated contract. So you'll see right here that there's the price that we put in that we talked about, and that there's an allowance adjustment for $1461.19. Let's take a look at that. Remember, we set the framing material to be an allowance. And notice right here, I meant framing package. Notice right here, estimated cost at completion has been changed down some, which means there's a difference. And the builder, if you remember the allowance agreement and looked at the bottom of it, said, I will give you 25% credit for this markup on this. So I will take the difference with the markup and adjust your price down by this much money. If you take the difference between this and this, which is your amount you've saved, and the amount you're giving them credit for, you're going to see that it equals that 290. You'll have to think about that. But I want you to know how smart CHS is about knowing what's going on there. It's taking the fixed price, adjusting down for the allowance adjustment, and coming up with a revised estimated profit and showing you that the difference in the profit is this much. Now you need to study on that, but you'll know that CHS is taking care of the proper math for you based on the type of contract. Now I'm going to play like we jumped ahead in time, and I know that we don't have a bunch of other invoices entered, but I'm going to show you that we received an invoice from Builder's First Source, and down here at the bottom is some totals for that invoice. So I'm going to jump back into Custom Homebuilders Solutions, and I've opened the window for adding a new payables bill to pay. because I want to demonstrate a couple of things on the ECC. I have already uploaded a copy. You can see a paperclip here. If I hadn't, there would be an upload icon, but that's what's attached right here if I clicked on it, and so you can upload a copy of the bill. But I'd like to show you the power of POs for one more thing. Notice we don't have a job in here, we don't have an amount yet, but let's drop down and see if there's any POs for this builder's first source and this job. And there is, and it's showing outstanding $87,486. So let's click that, and you notice the amounts that have come in here from the PO, that the cost code was filled in for framing package, and that the job was filled in, and the department associated with the job was filled in for accounting, and a cost type of materials was filled in because that's attached to the cost code, and today's date and due date dropped in. Let's play like it's due at the end of the month or something. And an invoice number was 123456, and then we can just say framing package as the description, or we could change it to be more detailed. But I'd like you to see how fast all of that was filled in for me because of the PO. I didn't have to guess what cost code and these various amounts. But let's take another look at that bill. This is $84,295.21 and is not the amount of the PO. And if I'm looking at the bill, I'm going to put $84,295.21, and I put in a tax of 8.25% because I know that's what it is. And I want to do that separately because CHS will actually post two lines to your accounting records, one marked for the amount of sales tax, so that that home buyer asks you for a list of all the sales tax paid. You can get it because it's in one record marked with a sales tax cost type. But if I look at this net due $91,249 and I take a look, that's the same amount that they're charging us. That is higher because we're sitting and looking at the bill. We typed in the bill amount. So if I click to submit this, if over budget or over POs, there's going to be a warning on the screen, and we can pause to take a look at it. Now notice what happens if I do over budget, and I can see it's $259,456. It's going to open a little thing showing me how that was figured out. Shows the total budget, unposted costs, and this is the amount that we would be over. And also, it's showing me I'm over POs, and it's going to tell me how much I'm over the POs that were issued. Remember, the PO was different than the budget. So anyway, I'm getting warnings about that. So what I want to do is make a comment. And I'm going to make the comment to a user, James Randall maybe, who's the builder on the job. And I'm just going to say, builder's first source is over the amount of the PO and the budget. I'm going to save that. It has an attachment to it already because I uploaded an attachment. If I send it, the builder on the job will get this little notice as an email, or I can just leave it as a comment that will show up when they are approving the bills to pay. So I'm just going to close that. We're going to submit this again. We already know that it's over. We will continue to submit, and we will elect to choose to post it as unpaid. Now if we wanted to print a check right now for that, we could use this, or if we paid it by credit card, we could use this. But I'm just going to post it as unpaid, so it shows up in unpaid payables to select pay when we do our check run. My point here is I'm going back to the ECC, and I'm going to refresh it. Jump down to framing again, but now notice that the actual costs are this amount that we posted. You can drill down on them. You can see them. You can see that CHS posted two different lines, sales tax and the original amount. But you can see that we're now over budget by $25.95, and you can see that our profit has gone up. If you click on that again, since it's an allowance item, we are actually doing an allowance adjustment for this amount and increasing the price because it is an allowance and they're supposed to pay the allowance difference. And all of that has made our profit difference be this much because it's a revised price minus the current ECC, which has gone up, etc. But you can see how fast you can see this stuff happening as soon as the bookkeeper is doing things if you refresh. Just wanted to show you how things change right away, including what your profit's going to be, etc., based on what's happening with bookkeeping entering it. Now if you were hooked into something like QuickBooks and trying to synchronize and stuff, you'd have to do the synchronization and a bunch of stuff before this would be recalculated. Since you are entering your bills in CHS, this stuff is showing up immediately on your estimated cost at completion worksheet. Now what I'd like to show you is something else on the jobs dashboard, is that there's something over here for the field to approve posted job costs. And let's just take a look at it. We've only posted one, but let's take a look at it. Now notice that right over here is a paperclip icon so that they can go ahead and click that, and they can go ahead and open a copy of that invoice. They also can drill down on the ECC for the particular cost code, and they can see how much we're going over, etc. on that. They can study on it. They can also see that there is a comment from the bookkeeper that is darkened in, which should alert the field that is approving the bills to pay that there is some comment from the bookkeeper, even if you didn't drill down on the ECC. You can also drill down on the POs, and you can see the PO total, the actual cost, and how much over the POs those are. So you can drill down on all sorts of things. So now you can understand why I showed that guy at the desk sifting through a stack of bills that he needed to code and he needed to approve or decide whether to pay or not. The other thing is, when I showed the person sifting through the file cabinet to see if they could find the bill that had been received later or a stack of bills, I'd like to let you know that you can bring up all the payables bills and see paperclip icons or drill down on what's been paid them so far. Notice that if I drill down on Builder's First Source, you can see there's a button where I can see all the vendor payables bills, first source, etc., waivers of lien, all sorts of stuff about that. So that person sifting through the file cabinet doesn't have to sift through the file cabinet to look at various bills, pull out stuff, try to figure out stuff about this particular vendor. So anyway, if the field decides to go ahead and agree, we're going to have to pay that overage. OK 1 is usually for somebody in the field to check mark that it's okay to pay. So I wanted to demonstrate to you how important POs can be, first of all, for the bookkeeper to quickly enter. So I wanted to make a great big point of how the field is now going to get a big list of bills to approve to pay before they're paid, and that when the bookkeeper opens the bills that have been posted that are unpaid, and is selecting them to pay, there are quick tools there to just select the ones that have been approved by the field. There is another step that the person in the field could do, in that they could bring up the POs and costs, and they could mark that the work is done, and actually the bookkeeper can go to that list, search for just the POs that have been marked as done, and instantly create various bills from the POs that are done. Okay, I have gone and done some work. I've added a change order, I've added some additional POs, and I've added some costs. But I'd like you to notice suddenly there's an amount in COs, and if we go all the way down looking at the change order column, you'll see that there's a change order here for a hot tub, and you can take a quick look at that. And like I said before, this is your estimated cost at completion. So we estimated the hot tub to be $7,000. I have no idea how much they cost, but I just made up something. I put a 25% markup on it, and this is the change order price to the customer, and it's showing me the total profit right there. So there's a change order going on right here, and you'll see that its ECC is right here, so it has increased the estimated cost at completion. So also you'll see that we now have a bunch of actual costs. Not a bunch, but we'll drill down on them right here. And what I'd like to show you is that, remember I uploaded a copy of the bill when I was entering the Builder's First Source thing? These URLs are copies of the bills, and if I had uploaded copies of all the bills and you sent this to PDF, you'd be able to drill down to see all the bills that go with the actual costs that have been posted so far. A couple more things real quick going to the top. I did enter something for plans, and it matched what we budgeted, and I didn't go put a PO in, so I know that those costs are done, so I'm going to check mark those as done. We budgeted this much for Spec Plat's blueprints. We've paid this much. We can drill down on it and see whatever we'd like to see. We were budgeting $350, but we only posted $299, but we know we're not going to have any more, so see what happens if I check mark this as actual. Notice that the ECC becomes $299, and we've gone down by $51. I did a PO for $145,000 for slab contract. If I drill down on the budget, you'll see that the builder's notes was it was a placeholder because he didn't really know yet when he was doing it. But luckily, Big Buck Construction actually did tell us that they would do it for $145,000. You can see that that's Big Buck right there. You also see that we can have posted costs for $70,000 against it, and that's how much out on the PO. So over here, 70,000, we don't want to mark that as done. We do want to leave it at the amount of the PO because I check marked it to use the PO, the lower PO, as the ECC. You can see that we have outstanding still to pay here, this much. Up here, I did want to point out that this amount is showing as paid, so nothing is left, and we paid that with a credit card. And if you actually drill down, you can see that the check number is CC-1511. That tells you that this was paid by credit card to PDA, the architect. We have another paid one right here, and if we drill down on it, we can see that it was paid with a check, so that would affect our cash balance. I also issued a PO here for framing labor. As you can see, we paid this much, and this much is outstanding. Now I promise you, you can get an outstanding report that gives you a total of outstanding now and outstanding to complete, and based on various percents. I also want to drill down on the notes for framing labor and see why it's going over like this. And in the purchase order, I did some internal notes that say they are charging $9.50 per frame square feet instead of the $8.50 that we thought they would charge. So you can see how you can drill down on all kinds of notes. You can see the POs and the actual costs, variance POs, etc. if you issue those. We won't get all into the variance POs, but those are great for finding out where you didn't estimate correctly and so on. I'd like you to notice that down here it's showing how much over budget we are running, but it is showing that we are going to make a profit. The profit difference is going up by this much. So let's drill down on this just one more time. The revised price, since it's fixed, is coming from our original price plus our change order price plus our allowance adjustment that we talked about earlier. So essentially all of that is causing our profit to increase over what we originally thought. It's showing you how that's calculated. The revised price less the current ECC, etc. So you can see how that's changing. You can watch it. Now I'd like to say if somebody has a low level of permission, they should not be seeing a lot of the accounting and the pricing and what's going on. This box and this box about the cash balance will not show up on this screen. That will be dependent upon the level of permission you've given the user. So let's take a look at something else that CHS is very powerful about. Notice that it shows a cash balance for this job. If you click this magnifying glass to drill down on it, you will see that first of all we got deposits, which if I drill down I'll see that that's earnest money. And you'll start seeing any other deposits as soon as we receive draws, etc. would start showing up here. We can see payables, that this much, remember that was the amount I said was a check paid, was paid out of cash. But once you get more and more payments, you'll get a report of all of that here. This was paid out of this BOA, Bank of America. And this was paid by the Discover credit card, and I can drill down on that. And if you pay more things by credit card, you'll be able to see how much was paid by credit card. So we go ahead and include that in the cash balance, whether you have paid the credit card or not. When you pay the credit card itself, you'll just make maybe some lump payment of the balance on the thing, and you won't be telling it a job because we've already got the information to the job by posting some bills as paid by credit card. But you can see if you look at it here, and if you do a report and close in on it a little more, you can see that the totals are lining up under here and giving you what your cash balance is right now. On the owner review screen, available on the home tab, what this screen is doing is showing the owner all active jobs and showing those profit differences right here. You can see our Campman job showing up here, and if you drill down you'll see the same thing telling you about how that was calculated. Also, you can see the cash balances, and there's that Campman one. And you can see original budget, etc., and estimated cost of completion, and open the estimated cost of completion worksheet. But anyway, you get some totals. If you see ones that are being in red here, that's because I'm not updating a lot. You probably wouldn't have that many in red. It's because I'm in a demo thing. But if there was one or two in red, you'd say it's time to take a draw request. I'm going back to the ECC for just a minute, and I'd like you to see that if you want to know what payables that are unpaid that have been posted but are included in these actual costs, etc., you can drill down on those. And what's really cool is you can see links to the bills. If I'd uploaded bills for these other ones, you'd see the short URLs and could click on them and see the actual bills for the bills that are still sitting in unpaid payables, and that will show up for somebody in the field to approve to pay, like I showed you earlier, for that job. And then they can be selected and checks can be printed for those once they're all approved by everybody. to. So it shows this is short and that we probably do want to do a draw request for this. And I'd also like to say there is a builder scribble column that if you happen to know something's going to be more, you can type in an amount here by clicking the pencil button, and the ECC will change to what you type in unless the actual costs go over. So let's take a look real quick at doing a draw request for this job. So we are going to do an interim draw request. Our first one for Campman shows that it's fixed, means that we want to use a % complete draw request. These others will be drawing on costs that have been posted, but when it's a fixed contract, you can do a % complete right here. And you can click this to update the percents to 100% through a various stage, some stage that you're in. So what I have done is I have gone through and gotten some percentages in here. The 100% I got in just by clicking to enter % and saying use this, and then it does. Then on this one down here, that's 55, notice we show how much we posted, actual cost posted over here. And when I clicked on it, it calculated something for me based on what has been posted, and I decided to use this. So I did various things like that. Also, I could type in some of these. There's no actual costs or whatever it is right here. But the slab contract, I need to change to make it equal to what we paid so far. Let's just do that. 46.67. You can see that it's changing. But you can also see that right here, I just typed in 10% and said use this. That's what I did there. So you have various options to get your various amounts. So let's take a look up here at the top, and we have this much to draw. I'm going to go ahead and prepare the draw request without taking up time, and then I'll show it to you. Now it's in a list of draws, and it's draw number 1, and I can open the draw doc right here, and I can open the stored PDF so that we can take a look really quick, and you'll see it here. It's showing prior draws, which we've had none of, and it's starting to show you the percents that we're drawing on. You can see here, and it's coming down, and it's saying we want to draw this much. It's also coming down and it's showing revenues, and once we get more revenues in, like a payment for this draw request, it'll show those. So we're requesting this amount right here, and you can do things like email it, but the other thing is that I stored it as a hard copy, and the buyer, when they get online on their portal, they will be able to see the one that I stored as a hard copy and just open. I sent it using the send button and sent it off via a comment. So that's that draw request. Now I'd like to show you a couple of other draw requests on a cost plus while I'm here. This is a cost plus builder fee draw request, and what happened with it is we brought in all the actual costs posted as paid or posted as unpaid. We're showing prior draws we've done on costs, and then we're going to be showing some for this draw over here in the final column. And when you get all the way down to the bottom, so you see the total going on over here of what we're drawing, $12,184. You see the builder fee that we plan to do, how much we've done prior, and how much we calculated to do this time. You can let CHS calculate that as you go, or you can type in a builder fee that you're going to draw. What I'd also like to show you is that with a cost plus job, you can click to give them a detail of the cost detail for draw number 3 that was. And if you've uploaded attachments for these various bills, you'll see the short URL. Wouldn't that be great that you wouldn't have to run around? This is about that file cabinet. You don't have to run around pulling out all the bills to make copies of them for this particular draw request if you've uploaded them when you originally entered the bill. So when you originally enter bills, there's a whole bunch of things you can do so that you never have to run around and do this again. Number 1 is the billing for all the costs that have not been drawn yet that you posted when you posted bills. You prepare the draw request that you just saw, like boom, boom, boom. And if you've uploaded attachments, you don't have to run around and gather all copies of bills, because you can send this to the home buyer or have them look at it online if you like, and they can drill down on all the copies of the bills that you uploaded. So that's about draw requests. And if we did a draw request to our Campman job and we say that we did receive it, we got the check in same day, Christmas. That's so sad that I'm doing this on Christmas. early in the morning before everybody gets up, just because I want to get done with the video. So if I do draw received and I go over here, I want to jump for accounting to the area for posting a deposit. For the draw received, we're going to add a new deposit. I'm going to select my Campman payer, and I'm going to say Campman draw 1, and I'm going to do interim draw request. And what I'd like you to know as an accountant, that you can set up something called deposit categories. You can see that right here, and you can help your bookkeeper. So we made a deposit category called interim draw, and we're posting those to construction loans payable, GL account number. But if you will set these up and edit them and put in the selected GL that should drop in from your chart of accounts, and the bookkeeper puts interim draw, then the GL number you'd like that to go to will drop in, so they don't have to think about it so much. They paid it all. And let's put it into our Bank of America construction account, and let's submit that deposit. It will tell you how much is in the bank account after doing that deposit if you're interested in that. But let's go back to our ECC. Now notice our cash balance is this. We could drill down on it again to see what came in. Still have those outstanding payables, but after we pay those, we would still have this much left. Okay, let's speed up this video and let's address the part that you saw at the first where there were frown lines on the person double entering data into spreadsheets. And I'd mostly like to show you how that's accomplished in CHS, that you don't have to do those spreadsheets so much anymore. We've already seen cash and credit card analysis by job and how fast CHS will do that. We've also already seen billings and draw requests and estimated cost today and overages on the estimated cost at completion worksheet. Let's jump right now to the contract balance based on contract type really quick before we leave the estimated cost at completion worksheet. And the way I'd like to show you that is by clicking this button at the top about tools and reports. First of all, notice down here we have outstanding to pay and an amount here. Pay attention to that. But let's go to the report central for all kinds of things for this job. Let's jump over to the contract balance report. This is really valuable near the end of the job to see what contract balance and make sure you're tying to the title company. But so far on our fixed contract, we've seen the revised price before, and we received this much money you've seen in this demo, and this is the contract balance. Again, that's really valuable near the end of the job. The other thing I'd like you to see, I'm going to collapse that, outstanding costs, outstanding by cost code. Way down at the bottom, you'll see that amount that I was telling you about outstanding that we see on the ECC worksheet. Right here, this is outstanding for completed. In other words, things that have been marked as so much % complete, which you can actually enter that yourself, or CHS is calculating it as you go by how much you've entered so far. Work completed is calculated here. This is outstanding unpaid. It's showing you what's not been paid. This is showing you what's been paid on these costs. So you can see the current outstanding to pay and all the way out to the end of the job. There's also an outstanding profit calculation and things that are showing remaining unpaid, completed, and remaining revenues to receive, etc., that you can pause this video and study on. And so there's also other things here, many other things that relate to this job, accounting ledgers just for this job. We're going to get into that accounting just a tiny bit before we leave this video. Deposits you receive for the job, change order balances, allowances, various things that we've gone over here. Let's jump really quickly back to the payables window where you enter bills to pay for vendors and subcontractors and trades. Let's just do from scratch. And I have selected Big Buck. It was already open here. And I'd like you to notice that I've written myself some alerts about things being expired for their general liability. You don't have to really write that to yourself, because as soon as I create a job-related bill, you're going to see that CHS has gone out to look to see if things have expired, like their general liability or other different miscellaneous expirations that you've set up for the vendor. It's letting you know about that, and you can send a request. They wanted to do city license and track state license and get alerted about that. But I'd also like you to see, if you look at this entry that we're about to make for payables, that I can elect to deduct some insurance from this vendor because they are expired and they've been ignoring my request for the insurance. Now this all comes from how you've set up the vendor. What rate you've gotten from your insurance will be put in here. What GL account number on your chart of accounts you're going to post this to, because CHS will post a second entry with a minus amount to deduct from this vendor when this is paid. So first of all, we're going to take a little bit of a look at this. This is the cost code that dropped in because of the vendor that was set up, and you can change the cost code if you're paying him for something else other than slab contract. There's another thing here, the general ledger account number based on your chart of accounts. What drops in for this vendor right away is a work in progress account, and that's because that's been attached to the vendor. But let's watch that GL number if I happen to select one of our property management jobs. Notice that the department has changed to PM because we have departments and we can do financial statements by departments, but the general ledger account number has changed to rental maintenance. That's because when you set up the job and when you select a job, that will rule what drops in. We have a remodeling job. We clicked that one, and the general ledger account number that dropped in was cost of sales remodeling, because we're not doing that on completed contract because it is remodeling. And we have a department set up called remodeling that dropped in related to that job. Now all of this is going to allow you to do income statements, balance sheets, trial balances for one department. You can also do that for one job. When you select a cost code, either labor, materials, or turnkey, or whatever you attach to the cost code drops in, and that relates a whole lot to a general liability audit report that you might do that groups things by labor and materials. And also, just to mention, those insurance auditors walk in and say, oh, you have the CHS insurance audit reports, just give me those and I'm out of here. And I'll let you know that this link right here will open certificates for general liability insurance. You can do the same sort of thing for workers' comp. That's being controlled by the fact that you have this person marked as general liability insurance is required. Also, CHS will do 1099s, and this drops in because it's set up that this person is supposed to get an NEC 1099. But if in this case you're paying big buck for something that you don't want to include on a 1099, you could select none, so that's why that's there, so you're controlling that right away. A markup percent dropped in based on the job selected in the cost code and the job's budget. Let's do another job I use a lot. And it's dropping in again, work in progress, because that is a custom home. And let's say this is a cost plus markup job, and that's only why this relates here. Because as you saw, we can do draw requests, and we can do a cost plus markup draw request. And what it's going to show is the marked up amount of every single job cost that has been entered. So CHS will go out and look to see what markup percent you put on this cost code and on this job and drop it in and attach it to this bill. That gets used when you're producing cost plus markup percent draw requests that are based on the costs that have been entered. The other things I'd like you to notice is that there's something here called is there a back charge. Maybe we're paying Big Buck the foundation guy for something that he had to go back and fix because the plumbing guy messed something up and we're wanting to back charge the plumbing guy, United Plumbing, somebody like that. And then it'll tell you here, if you hover over it, to enter a positive number to back charge the plumber. And that means that when this is posted, CHS is going to go put a minus amount to United Plumbing that you can take away from the next bill that you're paying to them. All of this is set up so that you do not have to go do a bunch of spreadsheets to get a bunch of the information that you're going to enter one time here. Let's do a quick bill that has nothing to do with job costs. Let's do City of Austin office, like we're paying the electrical. What I'd like you to notice is that I've written myself a note to do 30% to overhead and GL number 8700 and 70% to owner because he's a sole proprietor and it's out of his home or something like that, who knows, but only 30% is going to get applied to the office and to overhead bills. So I can put in an invoice number, but usually there isn't one, and maybe it's the date that's on the statement from them. I'm not going to dwell on that too much, but I can put right here 30%. And I decided to set up this vendor to go ahead and drop in the utilities under our office expenses. So if it's $100, you'll see that it's going to calculate 30. Then I can copy that line, and I believe it told me to put the rest to $29.50 owner equity and put 70% to that. And you'll see that down here we're totaling to our 100, and we could submit it as a bill to pay or to pay later, etc., etc., etc. So that's what this little quantity is used for quite often, but you can also be a number of units on the job costing stuff and times the unit price. You can use it for that. Just wanted to point that out. Also that there's full help documents about vendor credits and refunds, how to handle an upfront payment, tutorials, videos, how to handle some refund to the home buyer, how to pay off loans, sales taxes, and payroll taxes, etc. And I'm going to bank deposits where you're receiving revenues to point out to you that we have heavy-duty videos about if you get an upfront lot draw that you don't get any money for, but how to get that posted. Also, a big help document about how to use the HUD papers at closing and how to post it on the deposit window and capture job costs at the same time. like for title policy, etc., that you're getting deducted before you get the money. There's videos about it, how to handle that, and how to post the deposit on the Add New Deposits window. We're writing a program here for custom home builders, as you can see. The other thing that we may have mentioned is a lot of people elect to do a percentage of completion method of accounting, which means they are moving so much out of work in progress and out of construction liabilities over to sales and cost of sales based on an amount that they have earned for the period, so that it ends up on the income statement. But I'd like you to see how fast CHS is gathering the numbers for the current period, giving you a button to create a journal entry for percentage of completion right away, gathering all those numbers and calculating everything out about how much job to date revenue has been earned to create that. I promise you, I used to spend a week or more at the end of every month, but you can come in here and do your percentage of completion journal entries without spending a whole bunch of time creating all kinds of spreadsheets trying to figure out the revised price, the current estimated cost of completion, how much you spent during the month, etc. It's just here. It will open a window to help you do that. When it's time to close the job, and if you select some job, we are definitely not ready to close Campman that we've been working on, but you can see that we could go over here if we wanted and just take a look at it, and that we could continue to the job closing window. CHS will gather all the balances in your balance sheet accounts for that job and give you a button to click to help create the journal entry, like say for instance to move this to cost of sales, and then also stuff to revenues. But you can just see how fast that happened. There's all sorts of other information to help you get that job closed. Another really powerful tool for accountants that they just love having is this work in progress trial balance by job that is showing the balances in every GL account on your chart of accounts for each and every job. Another place that you don't have to go make a bunch of spreadsheets trying to figure out how much is in each GL account for each job. It's listed here. You can drill down on it. This says closed back in 2014, and we're wondering why there's a balance. If I drill down, you can see who you paid. You can go to the payables ledger. You can change this GL as needed out of being in work in progress. That was just a warranty on a job that was already closed, but you can spot that right away. And believe me, when CPAs see this window, they just love it. There's also accounts payable aging, by the way, for them, that gives a list of the invoices as of the end of year date. If you like, for any year, it'll go back. It's date sensitive. It can tell you what the unpaid invoices were as of the close of the year that CPA might need. You can see that if we go to financials, financial statements, and we want to do some balance sheets, here's a balance sheet going on. You send it to PDF. It's much prettier looking, that type of thing. But you can get a trial balance for each job. You can get the cash flow for each job. You can get the trial balance, cash flow, etc. for each department. And over here, when you're over on income statements, same thing. You select a period. You can get income statements for each job, for each department, for a range of jobs, like maybe you want all the property management jobs on one income statement. It's really heavy duty with everything that I wished I had when I was working in the back office and all of the accounting records that I need. You can do a comparison income financial statements from last year to this year, or 1 month to the next month, and compare the two together. But hopefully you get an idea that there is all sorts of things inside CHS that relates to the fact that you are a custom home builder with all sorts of unique accounting needs. And I do have a lot of my customers tell me that their banker or lender or somebody else looking at their financials is always asking them, where did you get these great reports? And that they love them, and they love your draw requests, all sorts of things. And that you also can show your home buyer, when you're meeting with them, samples of these various reports that relate to them, to show them how accountable you are and to get that job. Thank you so much for watching, and please feel free to watch our free seminar tutorials that will show you a whole lot more about all of these areas for whatever area you're interested in. It's a good idea to have your team take a look at a lot of those, and good luck with your business.